Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
Kimar Roach, and I listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Indeed you are, people. Welcome to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. My name is Machel St. Patrick here at one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And first things first, I'm sorry, people. This review of day 3 should have been out much earlier, but you don't know, man has to work. And you can see I'm still, can you see it? You can see my tie. You see my tie, people? Just come in from work. I said I've got to give the people what they want. I still got to record this, even though we're just under 4 hours at the time of recording from day 4 starting. I promised I'd do a day 3 review, so here I am. As ever, these shouldn't be going longer than 20 minutes. So let me not try and do like a 25-minute one. Let me actually try and keep this one to time. So day 3, people, did it unfold how I thought it would unfold? I implored the West Indies in the day 2 review. I said, soak up balls, survive for as long as you survive till the end of the day, and get as close to the follow-on as you can. Did we do any of those 3? Well, we didn't survive till the end of the day. I guess we got as close to the follow-on as we possibly could, and some of the batters soaked up some balls. It was an eventful day, though. First things first, I think if you're somebody who subscribes to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, or maybe this is the first time you're watching the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, if you also follow our sister show or our spin-off show, West Indies on 99.94 DM, you would know that on episode 38 of that particular podcast that we do, I stated in that episode that I thought a good target for West Indies in this test series would be to try and pass 250 runs twice. And we got bowled out on day 3 for 283. I'm not going to try and pretend that 283 is a good score. It's not, particularly in light of the fact that Australia, of course, made 598 for 4 declared. But I think given the context that only 4 of the West Indies squad have toured Australia before, and they're batting against probably or arguably the most destructive bowling lineup in world cricket in terms of within their own home conditions, 283. I would have liked us to have kind of reached the milestone of 300, but 283, given the quality of the bowling they faced on day 3, I think actually it's about par. And again, I'm wary that some of you are going to be like, Mash, how can you talk like that? We were over 300 runs behind, 12 runs or 14 runs behind. How can you even make a comment like that? But when you weigh up the fact that only 4 players have played in Australia before, when you weigh up that our batters, generally speaking, all average in the mid-30s or lower, and then when you then add to that mix that they're having to face prime Mitchell Starc, prime Josh Hazlewood, prime Pat Cummins, Nathan Lyon, and then just Cameron Green to come in if they feel like, yeah, I feel like we kind of got about 283 was about par, maybe even better than par, given what we're bringing to the proceedings. I think what was disappointing with the proceedings is how quickly we collapsed after the new ball came about. Obviously, at the end of the 80th over, Australia took the new ball and we went from... But when the new ball was taken, we were 244 for 4. I'll say it again. When the new ball was taken, we were 244 for 4. Within 16 overs, we'd been skittled out for 283. So we added, just do the quick sums there, we added 39. Is that it? No, am I right? Oh my God, I'm right. We added 39 runs for the last 6 wickets when the new ball came about. And that to me is what decided the day. So, but before I go into that, because I can go into that in detail in a bit, let's just kind of sum up the day's playing. Sorry. So Tej did get his maiden 50, but was nicked off in the first over of the day. I can't hate on that. He battled his way to 51. 51 on debut, I think, is fair. Obviously, we would have preferred one of our batters to try and make 100, but the examination they came under all day on day 3, we would have needed luck for one of our batters to make 100. Okay, so Tage went in the first over. And then let me actually just get some specific stats for us to look at, because this is quite important. So after Tage went, Bonner and Brathwaite put on 28 off 78 balls, but in the midst of that, Bonner got hit on the helmet. I'm trying to remember who bowled it. Was it Cameron Green, actually? Bonner got hit on the helmet, and I have this, and I'm going to be critical here. I don't know how Bonner passed that concussion protocol check the first time round. The area he got hit on the helmet and the speed with which he got hit on the helmet, to me personally, I was like, yeah, come off the pitch now. There's no way your head is not ringing from that blow. But there's something wrong with concussion protocols, because it's too easy for a player to basically answer a few questions and say, yeah, I'm all right. I just feel like it's too easy, because to me, Bonner should have just walked off the pitch straight away. He battled it out for 47 balls before eventually saying, I think he was having dizzy spells, whatnot, and he walked off the pitch. It's also worth noting, the other reason why I thought Bonner should have come off the pitch earlier is because Bonner also had a concussion last year in the summer when South Africa toured, and Nortje pinged him on his helmet in that South Africa series. Bonner had to go off for concussion and didn't play the rest of the South Africa series. So part of me was just like, come on. With respect to Nkrumah, he's had a history within the test game of suffering concussions as a result of what Quicks have done to him. How did he pass the concussion protocol? I'm not saying someone didn't do their job. That's not the point I'm making. I just felt he should have just gone off the pitch straight away. Obviously, people say if he said he was all right and he passed the protocols, then he can carry on batting. But it never looks good when somebody says they're all right and then 20 balls later is like, actually, I'm all over the gaff here. I need to come off the deck. I need to come off the pitch. So Bonner came off the pitch. And at that point, I think we were 106 for 1. And I'm going to be honest, people. At that point, I was worried, because I didn't believe after Bonner left that we had enough batters left that have the ability like Tage and Craig and Bonner to just dig in non-stop for the rest of the match, and so on and so forth. So I was worried when Bonner went off with the score at 106 for 1. That said, Dad's Jermaine Blackwood walked to the wicket, and him and Craig put on a 50-run partnership, 53 of 93 balls. So we actually went in at lunchtime at 150 for 1, and I was like, oh, this is good. And I will freely admit that at lunchtime, I was saying to myself, we might make 350 today. I genuinely thought we might make 350. So I think I went and caught my usual 1 hour sleep after the lunch break, during the lunch break, sorry. And then straight after lunch, Australia just went bang, bang. Straight after lunch. Brathwaite, I think, was bowled by Cummins. Yeah, Brathwaite was bowled by Cummins. Mayers never looked comfortable at the crease. He was bowled by Starc. And all like within a couple of overs after lunch, we went from 150 for 1 to 166 for 3. At that point, we still didn't know if Bonner was going to have a concussion sub. So Jason Holder then had to come in at 5. And all of a sudden, knowing that you're not, at that point, not knowing if you have a concussion sub, your batting starts to look a bit light. You have Jason at 5, Josh then coming in, and then Roston Chase, who's woefully out of form in this format. And I was just like, oh dear, who can stick around with Jermaine Blackwood long enough to put on a big enough partnership? Now, Jason and Jermaine did actually put on a 43-run partnership of 83 balls. So when Jason then got dismissed, he was set up by Nathan Lyon and poked to, I think, David Warner at leg slip, but he was well set up by the spinner. So when Holder went, it was 209 for 4, with the new ball coming in 10 overs. Brooks then walked out as a concussion sub, and Brooks started playing his shots. But today, as I'm recording this, I read about an hour ago that Brooks hadn't really been having a bat in the nets. And this is the first bone of contention for me for day three, sorry. How comes Brooks was chosen as the concussion sub? You have Devon Thomas, who has been making runs in the tour games. Yes, Brooks made a 50 in that first dibbly-dobbly tour game, but Thomas made runs, I think, in that one, and then made runs in the Prime Minister's game. Thomas, to me, was the next cab off the rank, right? Irrespective of international experience and style of batters and this, that, and the other, it didn't sit right with me that Brooks got the call instead of Thomas. I assume that Brooks got the call because they wanted an international experienced batter. I think they would have looked at Brooks and said, you know what? You have the necessary international level experience to go and now play this situation. We don't want to throw Devon Thomas in at the weekend as a concussion substitute. That's what it felt like to me. But I don't agree with that decision making. It should have been Devon Thomas to walk in as the substitute batter. And assuming that Nkrumah Bonner is now out for the second test, it should be Devon Thomas who gets the chance in the second test. But if Brooks has been inserted as a concussion sub, it strongly suggests that Brooks is going to be the one who replaces Nkrumah Bonner in the second test. So that's a bit of a talking point there. Would love to know what people think in the comments below. So Brooks came out after Holder got out. Him and Blackwood put on 36 runs, a 36-run partnership of 73 balls. So we were still digging in at that point. And then we went in at T. I think at T we were something like 237 for 4. So we were still in it. We were still in it. 237 or 238 for 4 at T. And at that point, again, I won't lie. At that point, I was like, okay, we're clearly not going to get anywhere near 598, but we should maybe see out the day. Fam, see when that new ball touched after T? Scrambling. Soon as Cummins and Starc and Hazelwood got that new ball, and Cameron Green got that new ball after T, we were all at sea. And I said it at the top, and I'll say it again. We lost our last 6 wickets for 39 runs as soon as the new ball came. That's what actually defines what happened on day 3. Everything up to that second new ball, we had actually battled really well, and I think our players should be commended for trying to dig in. After the new ball was taken, too many of our dismissals were soft. I will cut Jermaine Blackwood some slack. He got dismissed on 36 shortly after lunch, and it was your classic umpire teeth out decision. And by that I mean something has to change with the umpire's call ruling. If the ball, this is just my view, and it's not just because it's West Indies and Blackwood got dismissed this way, but if an umpire gives it out and then Hawkeye shows the ball barely clipping the outside of the stump, the leg or the off stump, that shouldn't be given out. That is because, to me, that is too much of a... There's too much improbability thrown into that to justify that as being out. And I know the whole point of the ruling is, well, it's umpire's call, and if it's umpire's call, so it is what it is. But if the same umpire had given that decision, the in-swinger from Starc not out, and it was clipping the bells, you'd look at that and go, yeah, that's about right, because it's only just clipping the bells on with the outer side of the ball. That to me is too... There's too much, what word am I looking for here? Doubt. There's too much doubt in decision makings like that to just go, yeah, that's out then. I'll say it again, because I'm not sure if I explained that properly. If the umpire instead had given that not out and it was shown to be having the trajectory that it was shown on the screen, everyone would have said, yeah, that's fair, because it's barely clipping the leg stump. The umpire gave it out and it's barely clipping the leg stump. Should that be out? Isn't that too much doubt and improbability there? I didn't like it either way. I didn't like it, and I consider those type of decisions a teeth out. So for me, Jermaine Blackwood got teethed out. Was he comfortable at the crease throughout his innings? No, not particularly, but he had stuck in there for 108 balls. the second most balls that any batter faced in the West Indian innings. So I can't hate on Blackwood's innings. He tried to grit it out, and then for me, he got a teeth out. But that Blackwood teeth out basically opened up the gates for Australia with the new ball, and they took full advantage. Josh De Silva got out to a duck, ridiculous shot. Here's my and you lot know that I like Josh De Silva as a batter, but you know or should know as an international batter, irrespective of if you've toured Australia before, I know, and every other person listening to this knows, that Mitchell Starc's go-to delivery with a new ball is the in-swinger, which is going to either smash against your leg LBW or bruck down your stumps. Josh De Silva went for an expansive whip through mid-wicket on the leg side, right? What was he doing? Why was he trying to whip through the leg side to an in-swinger? And the ball, the gap between bat and pad was huge. It was like the Grand Canyon. Awful shot. Awful shot in the context of the game. And in particular, because it was only the third delivery that Josh had faced. That delivery needed to be just patted and defended back down the pitch as best as you possibly could. And I'm sure Josh would admit that was a completely inappropriate shot selection for the moment of the match and out of the ordinary. We don't see Josh play those type of shots really and truly. So I don't know if his brain was scrambled. I don't know what was going on. But either way, he fell like 6 balls later or 7 balls after Jermaine Blackwood fell. So then we were 2, 4, 5 for 6. Roston Chase then came to the crease and him and Brooks put on, I think, a 20-run partnership. How much did they put on? Yeah, they put on a 20-run partnership. Then Brooks gave his wicket away. He chased one on a 4-4 fifth stump line from Cameron Green after being circumspect throughout his innings. Cameron Green came on and he just went and chased one, nicked off to Alex Carey behind the stumps. And then at that point now, we're 2-6-6 for 7. And at that point, I'm like, oh no, we're actually going to get bowled out today. And so said, so done. Within 20 runs, we were all out. Ross and Chase got trapped on the crease, falling over. LBW Cummins for 13. Kimar Roach went within 3 balls, nicking off to Steve Smith at first slip. And then Alzari Joseph went, it was only Jaden Seals left. He went for a wild shot and just spooned it up in the air. And he fell to Pat Cummins. And our innings was over. So what had started as I felt like at lunchtime, we'd acquitted ourselves well. After the new ball came, we folded meekly. Okay. So 283 is all we got. We were about, how many were we behind? 317 runs. Not 17, what am I talking about? 315 runs behind, or 16 runs behind. Australia could have made us bat again, but nobody really seems to do that anymore in terms of the follow-on. So Australia came back out to face the last 11 overs of the day. We did strike relatively early inside the 5th over. Kimar Roach got Khawaja to nick behind. And Australia closed the day on 29 for 1 from their 11 overs. David Warner, 18 not out. Marnus Labuschagne, 3 not out. Right? So Australia's lead at the end of day 3 is 344 runs. So what do I think will happen today? What I suspect will happen is Australia will bat until... I think they should... Australia will want a lead of 550 runs. They don't need a lead of 550. Australia could declare right now on 344 runs. I think Australia will declare at lunchtime. So they will back themselves. Okay, 550 is probably a bit ridiculous. I think Australia will back themselves to score 150 runs in the first session, and so that will take them up to 500. So I think Australia will want 150 runs in the first session, and I expect them to declare at lunch. Because in theory, you would say to the opposing side, we are giving you 5 sessions to chase down 500 runs. In theory, that's a good target to set. But West Indies can't chase down 500 runs in 5 sessions. All we can do is try and survive. And I don't think we've got the lineup to survive those 5 sessions either. So that's how I see day 4 unfolding in less than 4 hours' time. they will set 500. We'll have 5 sessions to bat. I suspect that at the end of day 4, we'll be very close to probably losing the test match. I would like to believe that by the end of day 4, we will still be coming back to the last day to try and save the test match, but I don't expect us to have that many wickets left in hand. I think that's best case scenario. Or sorry, that's most likely scenario. Best case scenario is Australia declare at lunch. Craig, Tage, I presume, and obviously Brooks is now an injury concussion replacement. So Craig, Tage, Brooks, and Blackwood just dig in, and we get to the close of play. This is best case scenario. We get to the close of play at something like 170 for 2. That's best case scenario, because then we would go into the 5th day trying to bat out the day with still 8 wickets in hand. That is the possible best case scenario for the West Indies today. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's far more likely that by the end of the day, we would have possibly lost 5 or 6 wickets with the rest of the match a formality on day 5. But what I'd like to see is that we just dig in, we fight, and we take this game to the 5th day, and Australia still have to come back on the final day to bowl us out. That's what I want us to do. That's the fight and level of fight I want to see. So the mantra still stays the same for when we come back to bat after lunch on day 4. Soak up the balls, survive as long as you can. Nothing about follow-on now. Just soak up the balls and survive as long as you possibly can. There will be a ball with your name on it, but survive for as long as you possibly can. Just show heart and show fight, and what will be, will be. That's all we can really say to the side at this point. But in keeping with what we expected from the test series against Australia, so far it's pretty on brand. Australia made a mammoth total and declared, which is what usually happens when we go to Australia. We fought well at various stages of the match, but the Australians' true quality with the ball shone through in conditions that they are familiar with and in conditions that most of our batters are unfamiliar with. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at in terms of the day's play. Let's see how we go on day 4. Hope you enjoyed that review and stay locked in when I come back on day 4 this in about, I don't know, in less than 24 hours time to talk about the review of day 4. As usual, I didn't say at the top of the show, you should have been seeing the ticker tape go at the bottom of the screen. You can find the Caribbean Cricket Podcast at Carib Cricket on Twitter and Instagram. We're on the road to 4K YouTube subscribers. Loads of you must have pressed subscribe after yesterday's show because we're now on 3,675, I think. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer to 4K. So thank you to anybody who's been subscribing. And if you are interested, a couple of you became patrons yesterday. So thank you to those people who became patrons. Any support is valued. If you want to become a patron for as little as £2, $2, ₹2, to whatever your currency is, head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket, where you can get some exclusive content from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast as well. But enjoy day 4, people. Stay locked in. Head over to Twitter. That's where I'll be during the night in UK time watching this game. And we'll interact there, and I'll come back for the day 4 review tomorrow, people. So see you soon.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.